It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running here on another edition of Musso at the box. We made it. It is game week. LSU opens up the 2025 regular season this Friday, Valentine's Day, against Purdue Fort Wayne. That game scheduled for a 2 p.m. first pitch. There is some rain in the forecast for this weekend. So, well, that's already here too. So we'll talk about the weather as we continue to go along. But before we even get to Purdue Fort Wayne, before we even get to opening day, there's still plenty that we have to talk about regarding the preseason and what this team's going to look like when they take the field on Valentine's Day. And that's what we continue today. This is a conversation that I have been greatly looking forward to having because it's one that comes with a lot of optimism. It's one that comes with a lot of expectation. It's one that comes with a lot of excitement, but also some risk. And that is the LSU pitching staff in 2025. Pitching preview here today on Musso at the Box. We will go through starters. We will go through your bullpen options, which roles look to be filled by certain guys here as we are just, 4 days out from opening day with LSU. A lot of that's obviously going to change. This could look very different come April and May than it does on February the 14th. But surface level, this is what we're thinking. This is what we've got. We're going to go through all of it here today. So make sure to smash the like button, get subscribed up on the YouTube channel and your favorite podcast app. Share, follow me on social media. All of that is greatly appreciated. Let's not delay any further. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So when you look at LSU's pitching staff in 2025, what is the one thing that you have been told over and over and over again? They got a lot of arms, right? You've heard that so much. Ask anyone about the pitching staff. They got a lot of pitcher. I mean, they got a lot of arms. Does a lot of arms always translate into success? No. LSU had a lot of arms last season. And you hit a bump in the middle there with your pitching staff. It took a while for things to come together. Some of the guys you brought in out of the transfer portal, it just didn't work. You didn't really hit on those guys. So a lot of arms, no, it doesn't always translate. But this one feels a little different because LSU, while they have a lot of arms, looks like they have a little bit better mix when it comes to lefty-righty. It looks like they have a little bit more capable right-handed arm than they did a year ago, so you don't need as many lefties. It looks like they have a lot of guys who are ready to step up. Whereas last season, maybe not as many. You went out last season and tried to get the ready-made guy to come in, and in some cases that worked. Gage Jump, Luke Holman, that worked. In other cases, it didn't. Justin Lohr, we can go down. Sometimes it just didn't go well. LSU this season brings in a freshman crop that is eager and uber talented. And the early returns here just in the preseason and the fall have been really good. Then you bring in guys like Kade Anderson ready to take that next step. You have guys like Kade Anderson, I should say, ready to take that next step. Maybe a DJ Primo could be thrown into that role as well. I like the overall mix, but it's a very deep and very talented staff. And Nate Yeskie, LSU's pitching coach, back for a second year. Love that aspect of it too. We talked about that in a previous episode. Was asked earlier this preseason when he met with the media about managing such a deep and talented staff.
It kind of manages itself. And I know that sounds strange, but it's almost like people ask me what roles guys will pitch in. And even during the recruiting process, we have those conversations. The role you carve out is what you have earned. And if a guy goes out there, we always say the guy who starts the game is labeled the starter. Well, he just goes out there first, and he's going to go as long as he can. And he might keep 2 or 3 guys in the bullpen out of the mix because he pitches 7, 8 innings. And then now the score dictates it. Maybe you're up 10-1 and you got a guy that needs some innings, and all right, we're going to put him in the mix. So the score might dictate who you use at that point. Really, there's some balance in there. We would like to be able to use guys in certain capacities, but the game's going to dictate that. Sometimes their health does. Luckily, and knock on wood, we're healthy right now.
Great news that they're healthy, obviously, going forward. But he's right. game, performance, all of that dictates roles that guys fill. But at this point in the season, you're knocking on the door of opening day. Everybody wants to know what roles. So let's talk about that. And first and foremost, it starts with your starting rotation. So let's dive right in there. And he even mentioned it. Sometimes your starter will go out there, save your bullpen because he goes 6-7 innings or whatnot. Maybe you got a 6-0 lead, right? You don't have to throw your top brass. When you look at starting pitching for LSU this season, there are plenty of options. But those have been whittled down, in my mind, to really 3 that make the most sense currently. And one in particular on Friday night that is just head and shoulders been better than the rest. And I would be absolutely floored if he does not end up with the opening day start. I will say, again, before we go into this conversation, this will change. Do you remember LSU starting rotation from opening weekend a season ago? Thatcher Hurd started game 1. Luke Holman started game 2. And Javen Coleman started game 3. This will be fluid. But right now, as we go into opening day, here's what I've got. First and foremost, it starts with Kade Anderson. Kade Anderson is going to get the opening day start for this team. Again, I would be floored if he hasn't. He has been absolutely incredible ever since stepping back on campus in the fall. And Kade Anderson, down the stretch a year ago, was really good for LSU. You're going to hear a lot when talking about Kade Anderson's 2024 about, he got off to the great start early in the midweek and was dominating and everything looked good. The fastball, the curveball, all looked so good from Kade Anderson. And you know what? It did. It did. Kade Anderson, his first 4 appearances were starts, and in 3 of those, he went 5 innings. In 2 out of the 3, he went 5. He never went less than 4. And then when they started him against North Dakota State, that was an eye towards the SEC. He only threw 2 2/3, and you got him into SEC play at that point, and he struggled. It was hard for him to adapt, and he didn't have the best luck. He was put in some tough situations and things of that nature. But overall, once you hit the postseason, right? Once you got to the SEC tournament, you saw him come in that wild South Carolina game and throw a shutout inning and punch out 2. And it was like, okay, that was a big spot to put him in, and he succeeded. You throw him into the SEC tournament championship game against Tennessee, a Tennessee team that won the national championship. He throws 2/3 of an inning, gives up a hit, walks a guy, but strikes out 1 and gets out of it unscathed. Both of those served as great confidence builders for him. Because then you look in the regional, and he throws a shutout inning against Wofford where he struck out the side. That was the elimination game that LSU was facing, elimination. And then you throw him into the game number 6, the one that you beat North Carolina in to force game 7. You won that one 8-4. And Kade Anderson delivered an inning and a third, shutout ball, walked 1 and struck out 3. You saw him grow up down the stretch. And since he stepped foot back on campus here in the fall, he has been LSU's best pitcher. And I don't think that's hyperbolic or overstating or anything in that aspect. A 1.32 ERA in the fall, led the team in whip in the fall, led the team in strikeout percentage in the fall. You turn the page here to the quote-unquote winter preseason practice. Kade Anderson threw 14 innings, struck out 18 in those 14 innings. I believe in his 3 outings in the fall, he gave up 1 run total to go along with 18 punch-outs. He's been all over the zone. The stuff has even taken a step up. Love the idea of having a lefty in the starting rotation, and even more so, have him lead off the starting rotation on Friday night. Kade Anderson looks like a guy poised to just launch himself into superstardom when it comes to college baseball this season. He does. Now, he's got to stay healthy. He has to go out there and execute. It'll be a lot different when the lights are on and things of that nature. But to see the performances he had down the stretch in big moments in front of big crowds, high pressure, and him carry that over into this preseason, I think it's very safe to feel overly confident in what Kade Anderson can bring you. They've stretched him out. His last outing in this preseason, he threw 6 innings. So, I mean, like he is ready to go when it comes to Friday. Here was Nate Yeskie again in the preseason on the biggest jump, the biggest improvement he's seen from Kade Anderson.
I think he's taken more ownership of our unit with the expectations of what he wants to do himself, but he puts that second to let's get everybody going, because he knows I might only throw 6 or 7 innings over the course of the weekend. There's a lot of innings left to be had. How can I help impact this freshman? How can I help impact this transfer? Here's the left-handers. Here's how we run our pick package. I think he has a better sense of who he is and what it is that he wants to do. And some of that is just based on his own experiences from last year. You know, he felt like he could have done better, and that's the competitor in him, and that's awesome. And he's used some of those, I don't want to call them shortcomings. They're just, we either say you win or you learn. And some of those things that didn't go his way where he didn't win, he's learned from, and he's applied that moving forward, and he sees the big picture.
So even on top of all the stuff he's done on the mound, you hear that from Nate Yeskie, that he's taking ownership of the staff, bigger leadership role, all of those things. To me, that sounds like your ace. Like that sounds like the guy going out there. Again, I would be floored if Kade Anderson is not towing the rubber on Friday, opening day for LSU against Purdue Fort Wayne. Now, Jay's been known to do some crazy things when it comes to the pitching rotation all of a sudden on opening weekend, right? I mean, you go back to 2023, Riley Cooper was in the starting rotation. Chase Shores was your Sunday guy as a freshman, right? So, I mean, it's always fluid there, but Kade Anderson has earned this opportunity, and I would expect him to get it and get every opportunity to keep that role going forward. So, Kade Anderson, Friday. Saturday, for me, this has to be Anthony Ianson at this point. He has had a phenomenal first few months at LSU when it comes to preseason and the fall and things of that nature. When you look at ERA, Ianson was 4th on the club in ERA in the fall. He's turned in really nice outings 2 out of the 3 weeks in the preseason leading up. He was another guy who showed great ability. I will be just quite honest. I have not seen Anthony Ianson pitch yet. There's just not been a scrimmage day that I could get out there and get eyes on him. But it's everything that we've talked about with him. I mean, a guy who was a top 5 transfer in the nation per Baseball America, ranked number 87 in the top 100 juniors in the country by Perfect Game. He is a scout's dream. Great size, 6'2", 208, big stock righty, fastball in the mid-90s, 4-pitch mix, a lot of strikes, all of those things that make him a scout's dream. He is 6-2 mark, 3.07 ERA, had I believe 7 starts a year ago, as part of 14 appearances, held the opponent to under 200 bat. I think everything you want, he's got. My only question is, can it translate over into the SEC? That's going to be my question. I think you throw Anthony Ianson out there right now in the pre-conference, and he's gonna look like a star, because he's going to be better than just about every hitter that he faces. But when you get into the SEC, how well does it translate from UC San Diego into, the best level of college baseball that exists? That's a question that we'll have to answer, because we've seen guys who are scouts' dreams even struggle. But, I mean, early returns on Anthony Ianson going up against an LSU lineup that we all believe is going to be pretty good and just had a great offensive weekend in the last, preseason, he showed out. He has done really well so far through the fall and the preseason. Lights come on. I think he's a great candidate for you at number 2. I think he's definitely going to be in the rotation to start, and that's why number 2 just makes the most sense. Sunday is interesting. If you're looking at LSU right now, because you have some options there, and the options start with Chase Shores. And if I had to pin it down right now, if you're giving me the lineup card, I'm throwing Chase Shores in there. But it has been a bit of a mixed bag so far for Chase Shores here in the spring. In the fall and in the spring. It's something that Nate Yeskie talked about. This is a bit of a longer cut, but I'm gonna play it because I thought Coach Yeskie did a great job kind of taking you in and just kind of showing you where Shores is at currently as we hit the start of the regular season.
Just a natural learning curve. And what I mean by that is he's now getting to experience things that the innings didn't provide for him when he was younger. How do you work yourself out of a jam? He had a pretty good freshmen go at it, and Jay and the staff did a good job of picking spots that they thought would benefit him and challenge him, but not overwhelm him either, because talent is one thing. And as we discussed a little bit earlier, once you get into the mix and navigating maybe a mature lineup, a physical lineup, whatever it might be, learning to pitch on the road for the first time in front of a crowd, those things are just different. So he's experiencing some of those things right now, and we've been working on some pitch development, and he's really advancing his understanding of who he is, and I like kind of the alter ego that's starting to come out in him. So it's good because he's such a gentle giant. But tell him, like, between those white lines, young man, it's okay to be a little angry and a little mean.
It's the conversation we've had every time we've brought up Chase Shores on this show. He's got all the talent. You saw that flash in his freshman year where, he had a sub-2 ERA as a freshman. Hell, he might have had a sub-1 ERA if I go back and look at it real fast. Yeah, he did. He had a .096, but he had 18 and a third innings before he went down. So you're looking at a guy who's got 18 and a third innings of college baseball under his belt. And while we had a whole episode on Chase Shores already this preseason, and I sat there and I said, for LSU to get where they want to go, Chase Shores is going to have to pitch in the biggest games for them. He is that type of talent. And there is a world where by the end of the year, Chase Shores is your ace. I just don't believe that is right now. We've gone through plenty of examples with him so far through the preseason and things of that nature where, it was a couple weeks ago. Told you, man, he had that rough first inning. And then when he started to work himself out of that jam, it sparked a string of 11 in a row. He gives up 4 runs in that first inning, didn't help himself, and also had some misfortune. But after that, settled in and actually got you some length, which was great to see. And that tells you right there, that's Nate Yeskie, what he just said, where he's going through things now that the innings didn't provide him the opportunity to as a freshman. Chase Shores never had to do that as a freshman. He never had to sit there and, give up a bunch of runs and then, okay, let me see if I can extend now and keep my team in it. And he did it in that situation, and that's a great sign. It's also a controlled scrimmage. It is a little different. Chase Shores is going to be an LSU starting rotation by season's end, and he's going to be a huge part of it. He's just not there for me yet on the first 2 days. So I think Sunday fits for him best at this point, and you just let him continue to work and go through things and get innings under his belt and find himself in different situations. And by the end of the season, yeah, you could see him more towards the front of it. And like I said, in ultimate, I think you need to. But it's what we've talked about the whole time. It's going to take time. We've referenced jump from a year ago. It's going to take some time because he's going to go through things that he hasn't. This is his 3rd year of college baseball, but it's 18 and a third innings. That's all he's got. And he's coming off missing a year. There's going to be some rust. He's going through that natural learning curve, as Coach Yeskie said. And for me, Sunday's the best place to go through that. You want him in your rotation. He's going to be a part of your rotation. For me, you have to have him there game number, 3, weekend number 1, because that's what his role is going to be. So, fired up to see how it goes. That's my projection. Kade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, Chase Shores. Other options, if it's not Shores, you have other guys on this team who have started games. Zach Cohen obviously comes to mind. He was an ace on Wofford's staff and kind of fits that Sunday role. And I'm not just saying that because I've liked to comp him to Eric Walker a bunch, but that's a guy who absolutely could, fill a spot there. Maybe even early if you want to bring Shores along slowly. You could potentially have a guy like Connor Ware. There's other options, but for me, Anderson, Ianson, Shores. That's what I think you're looking at here, weekend number 1. Okay, to the bullpen. And this is where you get a little bit of a hodgepodge. But the first thing that everybody wants to know is who fills that Griffin Herring role. I have an answer, and I'm fired up to talk about the answer. But Nate Yeskie was asked that very same question. Who fills the Griffin Herring role?
Hard to say. DJ Primo's had a very productive fall and seems to be advancing his game. Connor Ware, a junior college transfer that's come in here, has certainly carved out a pretty good spot for himself thus far. But We've got guys like Kade Anderson. I think Maverick Rizzi's done a great job thus far. But when you look at that, Griffin was asked to carry a pretty unique workload in that he could just fit a lot of different roles. And so the experience for him, having been in Omaha the year before, having pitched in SEC games, there's no substitute for that. That experience is paramount. And that's the one thing that we're going to see with this group is how fast can they speed up that learning curve on the experience side of things. Because while, again, some guys have played college baseball, they may not have played in this conference, and they certainly haven't played here.
For me, this answer is easy, and it's Connor Ware. Connor Ware is Griffin Herring. I mean, that's like that. He can fill that role. He can be the guy that you ask to do so many things. The stuff's been phenomenal from the left side. It is a ton of strikes. He looks like a superstar. He really, like, in what you've seen from him in the fall and now in the preseason, he looks like a superstar. He didn't give up an earned run in the fall, so his first taste of moving up from junior college did not give up a run. He was second on the team in WHIP. He was second on the team in strikeout percentage, right behind Kade Anderson in just about everything except ERA. Like, if Kade Anderson has been your most impressive pitcher, Connor Ware's been number 2. And that's a guy that has shown the ability to stretch. That's a guy who can come in and get you a few outs. He can fill that role. You need him to spot start. He can do that. He did it in junior college. You look at his freshman season, 6 appearances, 3 starts, 17 innings overall. You look at his second season, 7 appearances, 2 starts, but 2 saves. He can pitch at any point in the game for you. You have a short outing by a starter. You need him to go eat innings. He can do that. You get through the first 2 games and you actually have him sitting there for Sunday. You want him to just go close out the last 4 innings of a game on Sunday. He can do that. You need him to spot start. He can do it. He is the one for me that fits most in that role. It is incredible. I mean, you're looking at 2 seasons in junior college, both of them with a sub-2 ERA and 49 strikeouts over both of those seasons. All from the left side. I mean, the comp to me fits itself. When I look at a guy who could be that Swiss Army knife and fill that quote-unquote Griffin Herring role, it's Connor Ware. And I for me, I think it's an easy choice, at least who gets first crack at that. So take him and put him in that category in your bullpen, where he can do anything that you need him to do. When you look more for middle relief and things of that nature, I think that's obviously where Zach Cohen comes back into the conversation, because that's a guy who's gotten a start. Say Connor Ware, you have to use him up on Friday night. And now, you get a rough outing from a starter potentially on Saturday. You need someone to chew up those innings. I think Zach Cohen's a great candidate for that. It is, he just reminds me so much of Eric Walker. They're built similarly. They both throw from the right side. The stuff, from a velo and all things of that nature, it's all very similar. And it's elite command. It is elite command from a guy like Zach Cohen. And now look, he's a guy you're going to have to play great defense behind, but that's a guy who's been through the wars as an ace of a staff. You need him to come in, keep you in a ball game. He fits really well in the middle relief. And again, if you need him to spot start, he can do it. Like that is a role that he could do. So I like him penciled in more kind of middle relief there as well. And then you get into some interesting options, because then you have a guy like some of the freshmen. All right, you have Cooper Williams and William Schmidt and Maverick Rizzi and Kade Evans. And I think all those guys can really play multiple roles. But I think, honestly, if you're looking at this and you go, all right, you feel good about Connor Ware, you feel good about Zach Cohen there and the middle relief form of you really think you're going to have some good starting pitching where you get a little bit deeper. I think you can take away the rest of the guys and piece that together leading up to your back end. The back end of your bullpen right now is Gavin Guidry. Okay. I mean, Gavin Guidry also had a fantastic fall. He's been doing very well. And Guidry, he's got the experience of closing out games in this league. He's your first crack at the back end of your pen, and he should be. I mean, he's definitely earned that role. It makes a lot of sense. It's Guidry. Who else could join him? And I think really two guys stick out there for me. And that is Kade Evans and William Schmidt. I don't know if William Schmidt's ready to just be the guy to get the last outs of the game, but I'll be damned. When he came into that scrimmage a couple weeks ago and that first inning that he just let it all hang out, let it go, let it loose, reared back and threw, got up to 97 with the mix of pitches that he has, that was really eye-opening, and I'll be damned if I didn't get excited by the thought of him just coming in and doing that to close out a big game at the back end. Is he ready to do that yet? I don't know, but I think he obviously gets an opportunity potentially here early in the season to show that after Gavin Guidry is used up on a weekend. And then Kade Evans is the other one. And y'all, when we were talking the freshman preview, I raved Kade Evans. I love the athletic ability from him. Obviously, the fastball is that of a closer. So, I mean, he fits back there in that regard when it comes to stuff, right? But the moxie that he's already kind of got too. The guy's he's a former shortstop. And a damn good one. It was a top 20 shortstop in high school in the entire country coming out. Now LSU's got him as a pitcher, and he's out there throwing 98. So he definitely fits there, and also he'd be a different look from Gavin Guidry. We talked about this a lot last season where it was, you have potentially Guidry and Lure back there, just nailing down you could have that as an 8th and a 9th, or one closes one game weekend, the other one closes the next. You could potentially have that with Kade Evans. Now, this is asking a lot of a freshman to come in and be in that high leverage spot early. But the moxie that's kind of been there from Kade Evans shows me that he might be ready for that already, at this point in his career already. So we will see. Those are really the three guys I think you have opportunities for at the very back end of your bullpen. It starts with Gavin Guidry. The rest is kind of a bridge. And I think William Schmidt figures into that bridge. Maverick Rizzi, I think, figures into that bridge. Same with a guy, in a sense like Cooper Williams. Cooper Williams is an interesting one for me because he has already been used in these scrimmages. They've really put him in a couple different spots, which tells me they're intrigued by him and they want to see where he's working best. Right. They did that similar with Fidel Ulloa a year ago. You could really tell they were trying to test him. And I got that sense with Cooper Williams because in one of the scrimmages, Jay brings him in mid-inning to face Jake Brown, lefty on lefty. He gets that out, but then he also comes back out, shows you he can extend for a couple of innings. They did kind of a similar thing with him this past weekend where he threw an inning into thirds. So, that's a guy who I think obviously can be lefty matchup for you and or a little bit of longer relief as well. And it's been good. When so you could potentially have him at the back end of your bullpen there as a bridge, or maybe in the middle of the game, or, where else. The other guy to mention at the back end is Chandler Dorsey, and he had a really nice bounce back outing this past weekend. That was good to see, but he's also got experience as a closer. He was South Florida's closer a year ago. That's a pretty good South Florida team. That's a guy who also offers you an option at the back end of your pen. If not closing, setup role for sure. Bridge guy, definitely. Okay, you go throw the 8th, and we'll give it to Guidry, Evans, or whoever in the 9th. Or maybe Dorsey works his way there. It was really good to see him have the bounce back shutout outing across multiple innings this past weekend, though. So that's another one. Again, they've got a lot of arms, but when I'm looking at when I'm looking at bullpen and your Herring role, Connor Ware, middle relief, but Connor Ware falls into that as well. Zach Cohen, really the top two that I like there. Back end, whether it be a bridge or your closers, Schmidt, Evans, Dorsey, Guidry. And then you kind of have your matchup guys a little bit, like a Cooper Williams, who could also maybe do your middle relief. Connor Binge is a guy who has really, really come along for LSU, and we talked about him not too long ago on our Meet the Transfers, because he is a transfer from Dallas Baptist. Not going to blow you away from a size standpoint, but the stuff plays up. 6 foot 194, but man, got eyes on him, and the fastball was mid-90s. Really nice slider. He continues to just go out there and throw up zeros and shut out innings. He's going to factor in somewhere. And I think that could be on the weekend. Maverick Rizzi, I think, is going to factor in on the weekend. We talked about him in our scrimmage recap. That's a guy that I think could give you an inning here and there. Just eat an inning for you on the weekend and do it effectively. I don't want to say steal an inning, but because I think his role carves out bigger than that. But right now, steal an inning. And then the rest of the guys I'm looking at, I'm going, okay, what are you still? And for me, that's where you kind of fall more towards the midweek. A guy like Dalton Beck, a guy like Grant Fontenot, who the stuff is great, but there's not a lot of college experience there. I believe he only threw 20 innings or so at Texas a year ago. Jacob Myers falls into that for me squarely in that category. A guy who's got all this ability, all this talent, but can you throw strikes consistently? And he has not yet proven to be able to do that. If he does, that's a guy who's going to pitch on the weekend for LSU. If he doesn't, he's going to be a midweek arm for you. So, I mean, there's plenty of other guys. Dylan Thompson. Okay, where do you like? Probably midweek to start. There's just a lot of those guys as well where I'm not quite sure yet, and they fall in. Last but not least is Jake Brown. So Jake Brown, obviously, highly touted guy coming out of high school, was drafted as a pitcher in the 14th round by the Texas Rangers. Ends up on campus, doesn't pitch at all a year ago, plays outfield and hits for LSU. In the fall, Jake Brown logged some innings on the mound. He has yet to do so here in the preseason. Jay Johnson talked about it in his last media availability. Forgive me, I do not have the cut. Said, do not rule it out. That is something that they still are interested in Jake Brown pitching at some point this year, but they feel good right now where they are with lefties and with the righties and their ability to get left-handed hitters out at a much higher clip this season than a year ago. And the way they've built this staff shows that. LSU had like 10 or 11 left-handed pitchers a season ago. They have 5. And that counts Jake Brown. So leaving him out, you're looking at 4. But they feel good. They like the ones that they have. The cupboard is not bare there. But that is not something that they have closed the door completely on, according to Jay Johnson. They get into a bind, they can start ramping him up, a la Gavin Guidry in 2023. And, we'd see how that goes. But that's an option. It's just not an option in the immediacy for LSU. That's the pitching staff. I think they have a shot to be really, really, really good. There hasn't been a time that I've seen this group throughout the spring, or winter, preseason, whatever you want to call it. Feels like spring outside. That I haven't at least come away impressed by something that each one of them has done. Not to say they've all been flawless, but the resolve, the bounce back, that has impressed me very much with this group, whether it's in the same outing or the next time they get to toe the rubber. It's a deep staff. It's a talented staff. You have the same voice in the room. This feels like a year LSU is set up for a lot of success on the mound. You have the opportunity to have a true ace. You have an opportunity to have a couple true aces. You get Chase Shores into form, it shows up and translates for Anthony Ianson. They factor in with Kade Anderson, and he reaches the potential we all think he can. You got a chance to have multiple true aces on this staff. If you do that, boy, it'll be hard to beat in a 3-game series in college baseball. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We continue to count you down here on Musso at the Box. Be sure to subscribe, smash the like if you have not already. Follow on social media, subscribe YouTube and your favorite podcast apps. All of that is greatly appreciated. We're getting closer. Stick around. Be here next time for more on Musso at the Box.